There's a number sitting in your bank account right now. You put it there deliberately. You resisted spending it. You made sacrifices to grow it. Every time you didn't buy something you wanted, that number got a little bigger. And every time it grew, you felt a little safer. That feeling is real. But here's the problem. That number is lying to you, not dramatically, not all at once. Quietly, slowly, invisibly, the way all the most dangerous financial traps work. While you feel safe watching that balance sit there, something is eating it from the inside every single month, whether you check or not, whether you know about it or not. And the name of that thing is inflation. Let's start with what inflation actually is, because most people have a surface level understanding that doesn't capture how brutal it really is. Inflation is not just prices going up. That's the symptom. The actual mechanism is this. The purchasing power of your money goes down. Every year, every dollar you own buys slightly less than it did the year before. The money doesn't disappear from your account. The number stays exactly the same. But what that number can do, what it can buy, what it can cover, what it's actually worth in the real world, shrinks. Think of it this way. Imagine you had a block of ice. You put it in a freezer labeled savings. You check on it every month. The block is still there. Same size, same shape, same number written on the side. You feel good, your ice is safe. But the freezer is broken, and the ice is melting, so slowly you can't see it happening in real time. But a year later, you open the freezer, and the block is smaller. 2 years later, smaller still. 10 years later, you have a fraction of what you started with, and the number written on the side still says the same thing it always did. That's your savings account. Here are the real numbers, because this is where it stops being abstract. The long-term average inflation rate in the United States has historically been around 3% per year. In recent years, it has run significantly higher. But let's use 3% as a conservative baseline, because even at 3%, the math is quietly devastating. If you have $50,000 sitting in a standard savings account earning 0.5% interest, which is close to what many traditional savings accounts offer, your real return after inflation is negative 2.5% per year. You are not earning money. You are losing it, slowly, invisibly, with the full illusion of safety. Over 10 years, that $50,000 in purchasing power becomes closer to $37,000 in real terms. You didn't spend it, you didn't lose it in the market. You did everything right by conventional wisdom, you saved it, you protected it, you left it alone, and you still lost $13,000 worth of real value. Over 20 years, the number gets worse. Over 30 years, worse still. The money is still in the account. The number still says $50,000. But the world has moved on without it. And the gap between what that number says and what it can actually do keeps widening every single month, in silence. Here's why this matters more now than it ever has before. For most of financial history, keeping money in a savings account was a reasonable short-term strategy. Interest rates were higher, inflation was lower. The gap between the two wasn't always working against you this badly. But the financial landscape has shifted. And the advice that worked for your parents, save diligently, keep it in the bank, be patient, is now operating in a completely different environment than the one it was designed for. The bank is not your partner in this. The bank pays you a fraction of a percent to hold your money, then lends that same money out at 7%, 15%, 24% to other people. The bank is not keeping your money safe out of goodwill. The bank is using your money to make money and returning almost none of that profit back to you. You are, without realizing it, giving the bank an interest-free loan and paying for the privilege with your purchasing power. So what do you actually do about it? The answer is not to stop saving. Savings are not the enemy. The emergency fund, the short-term reserve, the buffer that lets you handle unexpected expenses without going into debt, those are essential. The goal is not to eliminate savings. The goal is to understand what savings are for and what they are not for. Savings are for safety, for liquidity, for the money you might need in the next 12 to 24 months, for the unexpected, for the short term. Savings are not an investment strategy. They were never designed to be. And treating them as one, leaving large amounts of money sitting in a low yield account for years or decades because it feels safe, is one of the most common and most costly financial mistakes people make. The money that you don't need in the next 1 to 2 years needs to be working, not sitting, working. What does working actually mean? It means your money is in assets that generate returns that outpace inflation, not by a massive margin. You don't need to take wild risks. You just need to clear the inflation bar consistently, year after year, so that the purchasing power of your money grows instead of quietly shrinks. Historically, a diversified portfolio of stocks has returned an average of 7% to 10% annually over long periods. Even at the conservative end of that range, after 3% inflation, your real return is around 4% to 7% per year. That's the difference between money that works for you and money that quietly loses ground. Dividend-paying assets add another layer. They don't just grow in value over time. They pay you regularly, every quarter, in cash you can see and use. That cash can be reinvested, compounding your position, or eventually taken as income. Either way, you're not just watching a number sit there, hoping it holds its value. You're building a machine that generates output. Real estate, index funds, dividend, ETFs, bonds, none of these are get-rich strategies. All of them, historically, beat inflation over meaningful time horizons. All of them put your money to work instead of leaving it idle. The specific vehicle matters less than the principle. Get your long-term money out of idle and into motion. Here's the objection I know is forming in your mind right now. But what about risk? The market can go down. Investments can lose value. At least my savings account never goes negative. That's true, and it's an important truth. But here's the reframe that changes everything. You are already taking on risk right now, today, with your savings account. The risk just isn't visible on a chart. It doesn't show up as a red number in your brokerage account. It shows up as a slowly shrinking block of ice that still has the same number written on the side. Inflation risk is real risk. Purchasing power loss is real loss. The fact that it's invisible and gradual doesn't make it less damaging. In many cases, it makes it more damaging because you never feel the moment to act. There's no alarm, no red notification, no dramatic drop that triggers a response. Just slow, quiet, invisible erosion, month after month, until one day you realize the money you saved for 20 years buys significantly less than you planned. The question is not whether to take on risk. You're already taking it. The question is which risk you're taking on and whether you're being compensated for it. A savings account gives you liquidity and stability. That's real value for short-term money, but it gives you a negative, real return on long-term money. You are paying for that stability with your future purchasing power. An investment portfolio gives you inflation-beating returns over time. In exchange, you accept short-term volatility. The value goes up and down. But over meaningful time horizons, the direction has historically been clear. Here's where I want to leave you. Saving money is not a virtue in itself. It's a tool, and like any tool, it works brilliantly when used for the right job and creates problems when used for the wrong one. The right job for savings is short-term liquidity. The right job for long-term wealth building is investment. Confusing the two using a savings account as a long-term wealth strategy because it feels safe is one of the quietest ways to lose money that exists. The people who build real financial security over time are not the ones who save the most. They're the ones who understand the difference between money that needs to be safe and money that needs to be working. And they deploy each type accordingly. Your savings account is not a vault protecting your future. For long-term money, it's a slow leak. And the first step to fixing it is simply seeing it clearly for what it is. The ice is melting, the freezer is broken, and the number on the side hasn't changed.